Yeah, smash the like button like a boss for a guy who is
Smash it with your iron rod.
the former senior correspondent at ABC News. Damn it. He's got the Peabody Awards and the Emmy Awards, and it's like, my God, he lives in one big award display case. But he's a modest man, and he is so lovely to spend time with us on Fridays. Jim Avila, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Thanks,
that's
Kim.
A great shot. Yes, Kim. Mr. Avila, thanks you for yielding your time.
Always.
The testimony of the day might have been yesterday, Jim Avila, the Mike Pence testimony. Finally, much anticipated. It was he pushed back initially. It's a weird cross current in Mike Pence, right? I mean, he's both trying to push back against the subpoenas for his testimony on J6, and yet he sort of has talked about what happened. He spoke about it in his book. He spoke about it in interviews promoting his book. Give me your take on this, also in relation to the investigation and where we might go from here. Like, what should we expect?
Well, it seems like what Mike Pence wants to do is have that chyron underneath him that says reluctant witness, so that he can kind of thread the needle with the independents who want to hear what really went on in January 6th, the more moderate Republicans who want to hear what really went on in January 6th, and still not alienate the base, which he hopes to, especially the Christian right, which Trump has held on to, but he held on to it because of Pence. So Pence is trying to get some of that back. He testified. Some estimates are up to between 5 and 7 hours yesterday and before the grand jury. We of course don't know exactly what he said, but it doesn't seem as though it would take 7 hours for him to take the fifth or to avoid answering. It does appear as though he did answer questions, and that could be damaging to former President Trump. So, it was a big day for justice, I think. Even though he was kind of dragged kicking and screaming in there, he promised that he would tell the truth. So let's see, how it comes out. It does also signal that they're getting close, and it really is a slog, and it really is testing our patience. But as long as it happens before the election in 2024, I think that it's well worth the effort. I think Jack Smith is building a strong case. He's had very good witnesses before the grand jury, and I think Donald Trump is in big trouble there and also in Georgia. And Georgia should be coming up in July. So
right, you think that even though there's sort of been, I think, an institutional reluctance to charge a former president, you think we've reached a weight of testimony and evidence and a moment that just speaks to sort of the inevitability of charging a former president?
I think we're to the point where it's a matter of when, not if. And I really think that, well, first of all, New York kind of broke through that don't charge a president thing, and it kind of took the heat and survived and will certainly proceed with their charges. I think that makes it a little bit easier for Jack Smith and for certainly Atlanta to go forward. So I think that's a good thing. A lot of people were upset that New York went first, but these are not choreographed Hollywood things. These are as they become ready and available. We've now learned a little bit more about the logistics about Georgia, about why they're waiting, because they have to wait for the next grand jury to panel, and that's in July, and they'll do it then, sometime between July and September, according to the DA there, who has already sent out a memo saying to the law enforcement to get ready for problems. So that certainly indicates there's not going to be a lot of problems and protests and people rushing the court if Donald Trump is not indicted. There'll be some protests probably, but I don't think that would be the danger that she's signaling about these about indictments. And I think what's good about Georgia is it's not just going to be Trump. I think we're going to see Giuliani, possibly Lindsey Graham, who are in big trouble. Certainly Sidney Powell down there, and that's going to be a good thing. We just have to be, I'm as frustrated as the next guy, but we got to be patient. The law works very slowly. Look what we found out about what's going to happen in New York. It's going to be December before the next hearing in New York, even though the indictment came down. These things do not move quickly.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be slow. And Trump is trying to make it slow and slow.
And the other case, of course, in New York is the E. Jean Carroll case. I mean, that's it's brutal to listen to those details. And I always hate when you read about the cross-examination of a woman who is involved in a rape case, because there's sort of this this disquieting, to be polite about it, way that these women are cross-examined and sort of raked over again. How come you didn't scream? How come you waited so long? And look, but this case isn't even about that, right? It's about what he said about her after that.
Right. The basis is that he raped her.
Sure.
And he, look, she's held up well despite the aggressive, vicious cross-examination by Joe Tacopina, who I know, have interviewed him several times. And he's a ruthless guy. And he, is one of those guys who is going to defend his client at all costs. And that's what he's doing. I guess that's what he's paid for. But, when she had some good answers. Why didn't you scream? Not everybody screams, she says. I don't scream. I'm not a screamer. It doesn't matter if I screamed. He raped me, were her answers to that. And I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's going to resonate with the jury. She seemed to hold on to her composure mostly. She did cry during some of that testimony, but I'm not sure that hurts her. He has been reprimanded in front of the jury, Tacopina, several times for his conduct. That when the judge talks to an attorney and reprimands them, the jury hears that. The jury identifies they're on the judge's side most of the time. And that's not a good thing, having covered a lot of trials. So I think that hurts him. The judge has publicly rebuked Donald Trump and kind of shut him up after that first foray into Truth Social, when he was demeaning the process and demeaning the judge, and also the plaintiff in this case, E.G. Carroll. The judge went after him, and he has been quiet since. So let's see if that lasts.
Yes, rebuked and foray, both ding words. Well done. I want to welcome him now. Your partner on Fridays here.
All right.
He was, I guess, he's able to now get free. Michael Shure is part of the scene.
Sadly, I'm free. I'm glad, of course, to be here, but the other thing would have been good too. But anyway,
well, I don't know if you can leave us with that, but all right, I don't know what that is. The other thing, I don't know if you can say, but you need to make something up now, because it
was a free cruise.
All right.
You've arrived off here.
You've arrived just in time.
And I had my hair all great, and then I thought, you know what? It's the NHL playoffs. I'm going to put on a hockey hat. So
yeah, good for you. Yeah. Where do they stand? We'll talk about it afterward. I want to. You've come at a good time, because I wanted to. I was just talking to Jim about the former president and the Pence testimony, which we don't really know much about, but we know the length of it. And I think, as Jim correctly said, you don't spend 5 to 7 hours in front of a grand jury if you're just taking the fifth, or if you're not saying much. I mean, I think he clearly was chirpy. But
it sounded like there was a lot of that time was taken up by the judge talking to the attorney as well.
Does the other big news of this week, which was the announcement by Joe Biden that he will run again, doesn't that signal sort of the beginning of a new kind of hand-wringing that the Democratic Party is going to have to do? I mean, you're looking at polling numbers that are weak. You're looking at, and you can tell me how significant these things are. The other entrance into the Democratic, he'll be primaried, Biden. I'm talking about the other entrants being Robert Kennedy Jr., Marianne Williamson. These are not people who are complete throwaways. Kennedy's got 14%, I think, in the latest poll I saw. So Give me the state of the state on Biden and just his how viable a candidate he actually is.
I mean, he's the United States president and the incumbent, which makes him viable right off the bat. Not every election is a referendum. Most are choices. And when America is faced with a choice, it is fairly clear that they will not choose Donald Trump. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to love voting for Joe Biden or that it's going to bring out a lot of energy. Democrats that I've spoken to have said that one of the most encouraging signs that they have right now is that these social issues like the Dobbs decision, like what happened in Tennessee and the silencing of voices, is taking young voters into the forum in a way that they haven't been in quite a while. It's similar to what Donald Trump did in 2016. He brought a lot of voters into his fold that hadn't been involved in politics, new voters, that sort of thing. And they feel like that's going to happen with Democrats. Of course, they're going to paint the optimistic picture. But again, and Jim has said this all along, and I'm wrong because I have said that I think that the president would not, I thought that the president would not run again. But being that he is, and it seems like he will, this is going to be a choice election. And when you have to make a choice, and one of the choices is Donald Trump, America has said most recently that they're not in favor of that. Republicans are starting to say it in some numbers, but not significant ones. And that's why I think that if Donald Trump is able to lose this primary, then we have a very different election on our hands. I think a lot of Democrats would prefer to see Donald Trump as the nominee, even if they can't say that. And it's hard to say. That's, I think, what you run into.
I'm so glad that you mentioned. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
I just think Michael's right. I think again, this will be with Trump versus Biden, an anti-Trump vote, and that will in fact energize the Democratic base like it did last time. Nobody wants to see independents or Democrats are really looking forward to seeing another Trump presidency. So as long as he's the Republican candidate, Biden is fine, unless Biden has a health problem or he has, he shows more difficulty in performing. So far he's done pretty well. I mean, he hasn't, we all sit on the edge of our seats when he's ad-libbing or speaking, but he hasn't really done anything that bad. So his policies, his policies are popular. The American public is anti-gun, pro-life, and those two things will continue to push the election toward the Democrats. Would I love to see a different candidate, an Amy Klobuchar, a Kamala Harris, a Gavin Newsom, a younger breed go up against the Republicans? I would, but it's not going to happen. The presidency, who was it that wrote the column? There was a column I read just recently about explaining how difficult it is for an incumbent president to step away. They bring you, you don't do anything. You ride an Air Force One. These perks are amazing, and it's something that you've tried for all your career. Biden's been trying to be president since he was in his 30s, and he got it. Is he going to walk away from it unless he has to? No, he's not going to. And I think that he's going to stay, and I think he will win if it's Trump.
Mark, let me just add, first of all, we've been on the edge of our seats, those who have watched Joe Biden, I would say for about 35 years, not necessarily since he's been president, because he's always been prone to that. One thing that I forgot to mention that I think is under the radar a little bit, which I think helps, is Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders said this week that he's not running for president. Not only that, he urged that there not be a progressive challenge to Joe Biden. And I think that is somehow an under the radar story, or my radar was pointed in the wrong direction, because I think that matters in an election where you have Democratic voters looking for another option. And many of those voters are looking to Bernie to see what that other option is going to be. And those people are told, you know what, this time we have to support the president because of what his platform is and where he stands on the issues. I think that's important.
There's a loud progressive wing of the independents and the Democrats even Are they disheartened by this? I mean, it's interesting that, there's politics changing so quickly. It's influenced by, so much of an online following. There's so many political leaders who aren't wearing coats and ties and having press conferences on Capitol Hill or in state legislatures. They are there online with millions of followers.
Yeah.
I wonder if the angry progressives, of which there is no shortage, can do what they did, I think, in 2016, which is convince enough people that, your choice is not good enough with Joe Biden in this instance.
They need the galvanizing figure. American history is full of people who have been the personalities that galvanize a movement for a moment, and I think that that's what is going to lack when you look at the progressive movement right now. Not that there's a shortage of those personalities and accomplished people and bright sort of stars. It's just that it takes a minute to galvanize those people. I don't think it's going to happen in the next 15 months. I
want to quickly move on, because I only have a couple of minutes, to something else related to Biden and Congress and how you could tank this economy and, in so doing, I suppose, score some political points by not raising this debt ceiling. Jim Avila, I mean, I know this taking us to the brink thing is something that has been done before, but it feels as though that party, the Republican Party, is more being controlled by crazies who really might not care about losing the game of chicken or whatever. They're just, it feels as though we're closer to that brink than ever. Is that just my feeling? How do you handicap this?
Well, this all gets very wonky, but not passing the debt ceiling or allowing the United States to default is such a major thing that even a spineless guy like Kevin McCarthy is not going to really let that happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I think you're going to have a lot of, it's going to cause more trouble in the GOP than it's going to cause in the country, because the GOP is going to go at each other. McCarthy's going to try to find some way out, and his real right people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are going to push him to the brink, maybe cause him to lose his speakership. I think that's more of a problem than more of a likelihood than a default.
What concessions might this administration have to actually agree to?
They're not going to concede. They're not going to concede. They have the high ground. They're not going to concede to cutting Social Security or cutting the Defense Department or cutting these, making these cuts that are going to hurt American people. I don't think the administration is going to do it, period. Michael might have better.
Michael, you think there'll be no concessions on the part of the administration?
I don't see what would behoove them to make concessions. I mean, Joe Biden, the only thing that would is that Joe Biden likes the art of the deal, and that, even though that's not his book title, he does like what the Senate and Congress do with the White House. But now that he's on the White House, used to be, what they used to be, and now that he's in the White House, though, that changes, and presidents have said that it changes when they get there. So I don't see any reason that they would, in fact, do that. And the White House, and if the concessions are there, I'm guessing that they would not be major.
That's not what I wanted.
By the way, this gets pretty wonky. Is Jim's pickup line? His go-to.
And I can't tell you how many times it's worked, Michael.
The Republicans are not proposing to cut Medicare or Social Security as part of their debt ceiling plan. No, they're proposing to get rid of SNAP. They're proposing to get rid of
Medicaid.
Not
Medicare, but Medicaid. They're pulling people, trying to pull people off that. They're trying to pull people off food stamps. They're doing things that will hurt the American public.
But not just the American public. What they're doing is they're doing surgery on what they think will affect the other side and not their side. So if you're going to get rid of entitlements, well, Republicans get Social Security as well, and they get Medicare as well. But when you're going after the voters who are most interested in what's happening on the other side, you get rid of SNAP, you get rid of Medicaid, or you cut them. You do those damages on that side where it's not going to affect your popularity. In fact, it might increase it within your own caucus.
Behoove, Julia is saying, is a ding word. One of you said behoove, I guess.
I might have.
You might have said it. Finally, in our last minute, I want to talk about the border. So, look, the border is something that, frankly, neither party has had a handle on, really, solutions when it comes to illegal immigration, when it comes to the overwhelming demand to come to this country. Neither party. Both parties, I think, have used it as a cudgel. Probably the GOP has used it with this open border thing, as they typically do, messaging quite effectively with the Democrats in the barrel on immigration. So now it's suggested again, there is, with Title 42 winding down. Title 42, of course, was really holding back immigrants, illegal immigrants and legal immigration to this country. But with a porous border, with the issues we have, and now with this new suggestion that there will be, it's a policy. They'll set up essentially places in, is it Guatemala, Colombia, where you can apply for legal immigration status to this country. The idea is, don't come here. We've got places, we're coming to you to set up a legal process for you to immigrate. Everything feels insufficient to the problem, but with this lengthy preamble, I'm asking you, this is a looming problem, and it will be used as a political issue as well as being a real thing that's going to affect this country in a lot of different ways. Jim?
Well, look, Mark, this was my specialty. Okay, I covered the border. I covered during the Obama administration, which was the last time there was an effort for a comprehensive immigration reform. In 2015, senators from the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, including Lindsey Graham, including Marco Rubio, stood with the Democrats to try to pass a comprehensive immigration reform that would have fixed the problem. Gave more money to patrol the border, more border agents, $18 billion to patrol the border that has never been before, and allowed for a path to citizenship for those who are already here. The Tea Party wing of the party and the Republican killed it in the House, and it's been dead ever since. So to say both parties, I think, is not fair. The Republican Party continues to use this as a straw man. It's their issue. They will not do anything to try to fix it. If they wanted to fix it, they would go back to the comprehensive immigration reform and pass real laws that increase the number of judges to listen to sanctuary claims, which is now like a 10-year delay, which allows people to come here and stay for 10 years without a court hearing. But the Republicans do not want to fix it. They like the idea of seeing these caravans and everything else to use as banter for their elections. So I don't think you can blame the Democrats for this. I think the Democrats are ready to sit down and hammer out a comprehensive immigration reform that includes more border patrol, but the Republicans won't do it.
Michael?
Well, first of all, they should ding cudgel. I don't know if you ever get dinged.
Oh, you're right. I didn't. Thank you.
The other thing is that and it's not necessarily my specialty. I've spent a lot of time on the border and in Central America covering the issue of immigration and migration. And what this and Jim is right. It's disingenuous for the Republican side to say that they have done an equal amount in terms of curing a problem. This problem is a good problem for them because it makes great political fodder and election fodder. One of the reasons the Biden administration at least gave lip service to wanting to try to solve this problem at the roots of immigration, which would be Guatemala and Honduras and El Salvador and Mexico, and setting these places up, is that a lot of these people are fleeing those places, literally, especially young single women and young single mothers who are, according to their testimony, being raped, being threatened, violence happening to their husbands and significant others because people want control of them. Staying there and waiting the process out in Tegucigalpa is not a solution for a lot of these people, right? Incentivizing the reason to stay, fighting the crime, fighting the corruption in those countries that's a different conversation. But saying, okay, you can apply here in the capital, just wait a couple of years and then you can go there. They need to get, a lot of them need to get out of there. And that's why they migrate and go through this harrowing journey through jungles in other countries. So
Sure.
it does gloss over that a bit.
That's interesting. Yeah, they're fleeing for their lives. That's a great thing to remind us of. And the other thing I would say is that this administration, to be fair to them, has thrown a lot of money and thrown even some institutional concepts at trying to cure some of those things that you're talking about. So when you say, you talk about those very real threats, this administration has addressed that. I mean, I thought that was sort of, sadly for her, Kamala Harris's desk being filled up with all of this stuff that, hey, you're going down to solve the immigration problem in Central. Good luck. But that was an attempt to actually do that, to try to change the nature of life in those places that they're fleeing from. Go ahead,
and it's
Jim.
not only Central America nowadays. Cubans are now, they've lost the right to come into the United States like they used to. They had a special program for Cubans. All they had to do was set foot in the United States and they were granted visas. Now they have to do like everybody else, and they're coming across to South America or Central America, making their way through Mexico. Haitians are coming through, Venezuelans. Even we're seeing a lot of people from the Mideast, Asians. People.
Yeah, when you're on the border, you see so many that's so true.
Yeah, so it's not just. Yeah, you can. In fact, the number of Guatemalans and El Salvadorans coming through nowadays is dwarfed by the Haitians and the Venezuelans. So, it's a problem that has to be looked at in a global way and not used as a political hammer. But it's not. It's being used for that. And look, we live in a pretty much, compared to these other places, great country. People have tried to come here since the beginning of our country. They're going to continue to try to come here. At one point, there were people from the Irish who were coming in through Canada and then down through. It's not a new problem, but because, and this goes into racism, because many of these people are brown and black now, it really has become, a political issue.
Very well said. I so appreciate you guys taking time. Michael, thank you for scooting in here. And I wish we had time to review the hockey, but we do not. We're late.
Okay.
But I will talk to you next Friday. Jim and Michael, both reachable on social media. So if you take issue with them, do it on social media. Leave them alone here. Most of the time you get nothing but love here. So thank you, boys. Appreciate it. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.